Simply economic. Simply Simply economics. Big ideas made small. Everyday money talk for any mind at all. Simply economics. Learn fast. Feel smart. One quick listen and you're ready to start.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise in your source material, pull out the essential knowledge, and deliver the crucial insights you need. Today, we're wrestling with a question that seems, well, pretty simple on the surface. But when you really start to peel back the layers, it holds, the entire world of commerce in its hands. And the question is this: why does the exact same item, let's take a humble 4-ounce latte, have wildly different price tags?
Right.
You can walk into one chain, get a perfectly fine cup for, say, $4 or $5. But then you go down the street, step into this high-design, minimalist cafe with marble and brass everywhere, and you're suddenly paying $8, maybe even $9. And it's for fundamentally the same mix of espresso and steamed milk. Are the beans really twice as good, or is something else going on?
The sophisticated psychological game, perhaps.
Exactly. And that's our mission today. Based on the research you shared, we're going to take a deep dive into the art and the science of pricing. We want to prove that setting a price tag is so much more complicated than just cost of ingredients plus profit.
Yeah, it's not simple math.
Not at all.
Oh.
We're using sources that really distill the key concepts behind modern pricing strategy, and they lean heavily on behavioral economics and consumer psychology.
And to guide this deep dive, we're really going to focus on 3. Let's call them foundational concepts. They basically dictate whether a price feels right or completely wrong to you, the customer.
Okay.
So we'll unpack price elasticity, which is sort of the sensitivity meter of the market. Then we'll get into reference pricing.
That's the benchmark of fairness in your mind.
Exactly. And finally, the various psychological pricing tactics that, subtly steer your decisions without you even realizing it.
And if we had to just state the main point right up front, the one thing you need to walk away with, it's this: pricing isn't governed by cost plus profit.
Not even close.
It's governed by a deep understanding of consumer psychology. That is what ultimately shapes your willingness to pay. It's all about the perceived value in your head, not the actual liquid in the cup.
Okay, let's unpack that. If pricing isn't just basic arithmetic, on a core economic level, what determines how high a price can go before a customer just says nope and walks away?
Well, it all comes down to one key idea.
Yeah.
Target customer elasticity.
Elasticity, okay.
Price elasticity for any business is literally just the measurement of how sensitive demand is to a change in price.
So how much people react.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any successful business has to understand how sensitive its specific customer base is to price changes. And that sensitivity, that's elasticity.
And high sensitivity means high elasticity.
You got it. If a slight price increase causes your demand to just, fall off a cliff, that product is highly elastic. If they raise that latte price by just 25 cents and suddenly a fifth of their regulars stop coming in,
then that customer base is extremely price focused.
So practically speaking, how does a cafe owner know? Where does their specific market sit on that sensitivity scale? It can't just be a guess, right?
Oh, it absolutely cannot be a guess. That's a recipe for disaster. The sources are pretty clear that modern companies don't rely on guesswork. They use scientific methods.
Like A/B testing.
A/B testing, test markets, you name it. They will strategically raise the price in just one location or maybe for one subset of customers, and then they meticulously track the data.
So they see what happens to demand, to revenue.
Right. They are literally experimenting to find the maximum revenue curve. It's very calculated.
Interesting.
And we can even break it down further. You have what you might call functional elasticity and then psychological elasticity.
Right.
Functionally, if you're selling basic coffee right next to 3 other shops that are basically the same, your elasticity is super high. There are just too many substitutes.
Of course. I'll just go next door.
But psychological elasticity is where things like brand loyalty and perceived quality kick in. If customers feel a really strong connection to your brand, their demand can become much more inelastic.
They'll tolerate higher prices.
They will, because the emotional connection is stronger than the few cents they might save somewhere else.
That distinction is so crucial. It means the price isn't just a reaction to the market. It's an active tool you can use to define your market. If you're serving students watching every single dollar, they are functionally highly elastic. They'll go for the lowest price. But if you're targeting, say, busy professionals where convenience and this perception of quality are everything,
Right.
that small price change might be a little annoying, but it's not going to stop them. They're inelastic because their priorities are just elsewhere.
Exactly. And that knowledge, knowing your customer's elasticity, is the key difference between a successful price and a catastrophic one. If your customers are mostly inelastic, you have a lot of room to raise prices without losing business. You can maximize your profit.
But if they're highly elastic,
Your margins are razor thin. You have to rely on huge volume just to survive. It's the difference between being a successful luxury brand and being a discount retailer.
okay, so that's the raw sensitivity measurement. But we have to talk about what makes a price feel right or wrong to begin with. We all have that feeling, that gut reaction, that a price is fair or unfair, even if we're willing to pay it. Where does that judgment come from?
That visceral judgment, that feeling in your gut, that comes from something called reference pricing.
Reference pricing.
Yeah. A reference price is basically the established standard or anchor point that you hold in your mind for a specific thing. And these pre-existing expectations are what fundamentally shape your perception of fairness.
So it's based on my past experiences.
It is. There are two types, really, internal and external. Your internal reference price is what you remember paying last week, or just what you sort of expect to pay. Your external reference is what you see right now, like a sale price next to a crossed-out higher price.
Or what the competitor charges down the street.
Or what the competitor charges. Both of those things set a psychological limit, an anchor for what you're willing to spend before your brain just flashes that unfair warning sign.
So if my internal reference for a basic latte is, say, $4, and a new shop opens and they're charging $5.50, my brain immediately flags that difference.
Instantly.
But this brings us back to the core question. Why does the same latte cost different amounts in different shops? If my reference price is $4, shouldn't every place charging $8 just fail?
You'd think so, but no, not at all. And this is where environment and context completely redefine that reference point for you. The cost of the coffee beans might be similar, sure, but the reference price you're using is for that type of place.
Oh, okay.
When you step into that high-end boutique cafe, the environment itself, the design, the music, the service, it immediately establishes a new, higher, and acceptable reference price. You're no longer comparing it to the latte you got from a drive-thru.
I'm comparing it to other high-end experiences.
Exactly. Maybe a cocktail bar or a nice restaurant where $8 or $9 for a beverage feels totally normal. The location, the expensive furniture, all of that has worked together to set a higher anchor point in your mind before you even see the menu.
So the high price isn't just about them trying to recoup the cost of their expensive rent and marble countertops.
Not just that, no.
It's actually a strategy. It's to signal to me that they deserve a higher reference price. The price itself becomes a signal of quality.
Precisely. In fact, if that high-end shop suddenly charged $4, it might actually raise suspicion. It would violate the high reference price the environment just set for you. It might confuse you about the quality and potentially even destroy their perceived value.
Wow.
So businesses aren't just pricing against their competitors, they're pricing against the memory of every purchase you've ever made. And they're using their physical space to move that psychological anchor upward.
That's fascinating. It means the context actually trumps the commodity. The whole environment is engineered just to adjust your baseline expectation. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. We know the customer is judging the price against this reference point, but once the price is on the menu, can the way it's written actually influence my choice, even after my expectations have been anchored?
Absolutely, 100%. This is where we get into psychological pricing tactics, or you could call it price presentation. The sources are full of this stuff. Businesses strategically use the little shortcomings in our own cognition to gently nudge our purchasing decisions.
Nudge them where they want them to go.
We're looking at things like charm pricing and the really subtle but powerful influence of menu design.
Let's start with charm pricing, the classic example, right?
Yeah.
We see prices ending in 9 or 99 or 95 constantly. So the question is, why is $19.99 so much more appealing than $20?
It's the core of charm pricing.
It's got to be the illusion of a lower price bracket. When I see something listed as 19.99 cents, I think my brain instinctively just categorizes it as in the teens, not around $20.
Right.
Just feels like a discount, even if it's only a penny.
That's exactly the mechanism. It's often called the left digit effect. Our brains process numbers from left to right sequentially, and we anchor really heavily on that first digit we read, the one in 1999.
Right.
Even though the difference is tiny, the cognitive load to round it up and register as $20 is slightly higher. So $19.99 just looks and feels fundamentally cheaper than $20. It makes the item feel more accessible, and it creates this tiny sense of value instantly.
So they're banking on us being lazy thinkers when it comes to scents. It's almost like a cognitive hack.
It is a deliberate cognitive hack, and it's not the only one. Menu design is just as strategic. The layout, the font, the use of white space, even where they place high-margin items, it's all designed to be a roadmap for their profitability.
I remember reading about a few of these tricks, like removing the dollar sign so you don't focus on the money part of it.
Yes, that's a common one.
Or positioning a really, really expensive item right next to the one they actually want you to buy.
That is the decoy effect in action. You put a very high-priced item, say a $12 specialty coffee, right next to a high-margin $8 latte. That $12 item is often designed to be a little bit undesirable, but its presence makes the $8 one look reasonable.
Like a good deal, even.
Like a good deal by comparison. It alters your internal reference frame right there on the page.
What about placement?
Oh, placement is huge. Research shows our eyes tend to go to the top right of a menu first. So what do? They put their highest margin items in that sweet spot.
To make sure they get the most attention.
It ensures they get the most visual attention, which subtly guides you toward their most profitable choices without you ever consciously realizing you were being steered.
That's a staggering amount of calculation that goes into presenting a list of drinks. And this brings us back to that high-end place. If price elasticity for a commodity like coffee is generally high, how do these luxury cafes, the ones charging double, manage to keep their customers? How do they justify those prices without losing everyone?
They succeed because they don't sell a commodity. They sell an experience. They survive and they thrive by completely shifting the value proposition. They use a massive investment in what you could call non-monetary factors.
Okay.
Which leads to a key point. High-end cafes use ambience to justify higher prices. They know you're not just buying caffeine. You are buying the entire physical and emotional context around the drink.
The comfortable chairs, the curated playlist, the good lighting for Instagram.
All of it. The quiet workspace, the high-touch service. You are buying time and space away from the world.
So they're selling the vibe. I get that.
Yeah.
But economically, why is it worth it for them to spend millions on fixed costs like imported marble and custom furniture?
The economic justification is precisely that. Those high fixed costs create a non-monetary value that is so strong, it fundamentally changes your elasticity as a customer.
It makes me less price sensitive.
Exactly. If you perceive the value as just coffee, you're highly elastic. But if you perceive the value as a third place to work, feel sophisticated, and have a unique experience, your demand becomes highly inelastic relative to the price.
And suddenly that $8 or $9 price tag feels proportional.
It feels proportional to the value of the holistic experience you've purchased. The business has successfully decoupled this price from the functional value of its raw ingredients.
So the high prices are almost necessary to maintain the exclusivity and the perceived status that justifies the whole thing. If it were cheap, it would lose that special aura that makes people pay the premium in the first place.
Precisely. And this is especially powerful when you remember that the actual cost of the specialty beans is often quite similar across these high-end shops. When the ingredients are comparable, you are essentially paying for atmosphere, convenience, service, and perceived status.
Those are the intangible benefits.
They are, and those intangibles allow that business to command a higher price and still seem fair compared to the new reference price their environment has so carefully crafted for you.
That makes the act of pricing feel like a full contact sport between hard economics and soft human nature. You have to nail the math, but you also have to master persuasion and manage expectations.
So to synthesize this whole deep dive, pricing it's absolutely not simple arithmetic. It's a sophisticated, calculated strategy. It requires blending rigorous economic data understanding, customer elasticity, with really deep psychological insights.
Which means understanding consumer benchmarks through reference pricing.
And then using presentation techniques like charm pricing and strategic menu design to influence the immediate decision.
And finally,
the ability of a business to integrate the physical environment, the ambience, to justify that premium cost, which in turn lowers customer elasticity. Well, that's the ultimate demonstration of successful value creation.
so what does this all mean for you, the learner, the consumer? It means the price on any item, whether it's a simple luxury like coffee or a huge investment, is a highly calculated strategy. It's based on a deep understanding of human behavior, not just the physical cost of the materials.
You're paying for the psychology wrapped around the number.
That's it, exactly.
And here's a final thought for you to mull over. The next time you look at a menu, anywhere, try to identify which of these psychological tools they're using to influence your perceived fairness and your willingness to pay.
See if you can spot the decoy.
See if you can spot the decoy. Are they using charm pricing? And most importantly, just take a second and consider whether the ambient atmosphere had already determined the price you expected to see before you even read the number. You might be surprised at how much of that final price tag was simply designed for your brain.